Okay, welcome back to our weekend lesson. Today we're going to be starting a topic trigonometry. Today is the 7th of April 2013. Okay folks, let's get started. Now, trigonometry is about three of these identities: sine, cos, and tan. Trigonometry is designed for right angle triangles only. Okay. Now, sin of an angle okay. Let's write this down. These are our identities in this purest form. Okay, so if we look at our right angle triangle, when we start a question using trigonometry, you must always label the diagram first of all. Opposite the right angle, we always find the longest side, which is called the hypotenuse. Now, in the trigonometry question, you normally have involves angles. Okay, we use the Greek symbol theta. Okay. Now, opposite the angle that they're giving you in the question, we call that side the opposite. So far we've labeled two of the sides. We have three sides of the triangle. We have the hypotenuse, the opposite, and the remaining side will be called the adjacent. So them are your three sides of a right angle triangle. Once we know where the right angle is, and once we know what the angle is. So opposite the right angle is always the hypotenuse. Opposite the right angle. Write that down. And opposite the angle concerned in the question, we have that is the opposite. And that leaves only one side to be labelled adjacent. So the first part of the question is always labelling the question. Okay. Now these are our identities. Sine, we say sin of the angle is the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. Cos of the angle is equal to adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. And tan of the angle is equal to the opposite over the adjacent. At the moment you don't need to know where these identities come from, why they're like this. All you know, this is a particular tool that we need to learn, and we're just going to use it. Okay? So the analogy I give to my students is this. A mechanic, he knows that he's got certain types of pliers and spanners. He doesn't need to know how they were made. He needs to know that this particular spanner is a 15 mil, it does a particular job. So these are your identities. You don't need to know where they come from, but you need to know how to use them. Now, rather than having to write out the three identities each time, we have a way of remembering them all. It's called SOH CAH TOA. And the word SOH CAH TOA, it uses SOH CAH TOA uses the first letter of each identity. So S for the sine, O and H. So you'll see, so in the original format, okay. Now, when we're going to use these, I tend to stagger them, turn them into a triangle. So red know this. Okay. So this is our original identities. That's the mathematics, and this is what we use to help us to know which identity we're going to be using. Is it going to be a sine rule, sine one, a cos one, or is it going to be the tan identity? So we use these mnemonic here, SOH CAH TOA, to memorize the position sine opposite hypotenuse, sine opposite hypotenuse, cos is adjacent divided by hypotenuse, cos is adjacent divided by hypotenuse. Now, we're going to use the rule, and the rule is called 2 ticks and a cross. Okay. Just let me check that. That's actually on the screen. Yeah, that's all on there. Looks like. Right. So what do we tick? So we tick what we know. So in that question, the information that we're given, if you know the adjacent, we tick the adjacent. If you know the opposite, we tick the opposite. So we start ticking the things that we know. Okay, now, what do we cross? Okay, that was a bit of a trick question. Now, do we cross what we don't know, or do we cross what we need to know? We cross what we need to know, because there's two different things. Because there'll be other items that you don't know. So we're not trying to work out what we don't know, we're trying to work out what has been specified to us. So we cross okay, so remember that. And the rule is 2 ticks and a cross. Okay, right. That's the basics of it. Right, let's get started with the question. Right, let's have a look at these sheets I've just given you now. Okay, here's the sheets that we got at the moment. I'm just going to make some, I'm going to enlarge these for you in a bit, and we can hopefully get them onto the camera. Okay, so first question, let's have a look at question number 1. 6:30. Okay. Right. Now, one thing you must be careful with when you start the question, don't mistake their A for your A. Look, we use adjacent. We use A short for adjacent. They already got an A. So what I do first of all, I use a different color and I relabel the diagram to make sure it fits the mathematics. So the side they've asked you to work at, A is not the adjacent. It's actually the opposite. So first of all, we start at the right angle. We always start here. We go across. That is the hypotenuse. Straight away, you need to label that first, because that's the easiest one to do. Right angle, opposite the right angle is hypotenuse. Okay, so Anika, which one do I label next?
Opposite, which is A.
Okay, yeah, the opposite. So we start at the angle and we go opposite the angle, and the A actually is the, I'm actually writing as up and hype and stuff. That's okay at the moment. Later on when you get quicker, just write H and O and A. For the moment we'll do that. You know, it's absolutely, it's hypotenuse. Okay, you won't confuse it with anything else. Now, how do we know which is the adjacent? That's the easy part now.
Leftover.
That's what's left over now. So the leftover side has to be the adjacent. Okay, so first of all, so item number 1 must label the triangle properly. Okay. Okay, right. Now what we do, we need to do the SOH CAH TOA part. Okay? Now what we're going to do here, I'm going to do a small one here. So everybody write the SOH CAH TOA. When you originally learn this, it's better just to write the whole thing out and do the ticks and crosses. When you get more experience, you just use SOH, CAH and TOA to guide you to which identity to use, so it's even more quickly. But at the moment we're going to do this way. Okay, so let's put the SOH CAH TOA. Remember, next to the S and the C and the T, there's always an angle theta. It's not just S. So what's sine of the angle? Because here, sine of the angle gets carried in here. So, okay, here we are. Now, let's make a list of what we know. So we're going to break this question down nice and slowly. Right. SOH CAH TOA, let's start right now we know. So Anika, from this diagram over here, what piece of information do we know as a fact?
Adjacent.
We know the adjacent. So that deserves a tick. Okay. Sundus, what's the other information that we know?
An angle.
An angle. That deserves a tick. So, that's what we know. What do we need to know? So, what is the item that asks us to work out? The opposite, which is the A value. Okay? So we get, so we give that a cross. So we have 2 ticks and a cross. That's what the technique is talking about. We know the adjacent, we know the angle, we need to know the opposite. So it's 2 ticks and a cross. So we're going to wherever we find adjacent, we're going to tick it. Adjacent, adjacent, we're going to tick it. So do that first. Tick your A's. Where we find an angle, Anika, can we tick those? And wherever we find an opposite, O, we cross it. So we're now looking for which triangle, which identity contains 2 ticks and 1 cross. And that is on this? Tan. Which is this one. Okay, here comes the beauty of the triangle. As you say, formula triangle, if you want to work out one item, what you do to the item that you want to work out, you cover it with your thumb. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to cover the opposite with our thumb. Like that. I'm just drawing on top of it. So our opposite is equal to, so the opposite equal to Nika, what is it? What's left over?
Tan.
Lovely. So we can say here the opposite okay. So not only have we found the right identity, we have also found exactly how to do the question. So we know where everything goes. Okay. Right, let's move on to the next bit. So we have labeled the diagram. We have identified what we know, what we don't know. We've done the ticks for what we know and the cross for what we don't know. We've used our thumb to cover what we want to work out. That's told us what to do now. So let's carry on over here. Okay, so we say the opposite. What is the opposite in the diagram? The opposite of the diagram is our little a. And tan of the angle, which is tan 30, we have to times that by the adjacent. The adjacent is, what's the adjacent? 6. Okay. Now you need to use your calculators, or the calculators provided on the table. Let's try putting this. Make sure when you type this into the calculator, you get a bracket here for when you type in tan. Make sure you put the other bracket in, otherwise it might drag the 6 into your calculation. Okay, what do we get, Nika?
3.46.
Okay, Nika gets 3.46. What do you get?
Same.
Okay. Okay, if you look at this calculation over here, that's given to the nearest centimeter. So we're going to go only up to 1 dp, just to, you don't need 3.46. That's just too many levels of accuracy compared to the values that we're given. So we say A is equal to 3.5 centimeters, which is 1 dp. Nika, we happy with that? Yes? Okay, and that's the end of one question. Okay, so if you go all that down and you want to copy it down for a bit more further, you need to pause the video because I'm going to rub this off now. We're going to go on to the next question. Okay, right, let's do one more question. This time we're going to do a question involving angles, and then I'm going to set you off on a task, and then we'll come back and look at the task that you've done. Okay? Right, let's do some rubbing. Just want to make sure that okay. Can I get the board in there? Right, okay. Next question. Okay, now we're going to do a question. To do with the angle in it. Right, let's have a look. We just don't want to tan, isn't it? That one will do. Okay, let's copy that original question down from the board, please. Slightly different than the ones you got on your sheet. So we have our right angle triangle indicated by the little square in the corner. We have the angle that we require to work out, which is n. We have the vertical side 19 and the sloping side is 25 mil. Okay, let's see if you remember some of the key points that we're going to be doing. Okay, Right, Samia, what's the first thing that we do before we write down SOH CAH TOA, start putting any values in? First, most important thing we do, we're going to do the question. We need to what?
Label the diagram.
We need to label the diagram. Well done. It's already written up there. Number one, label the diagram. Where do we always start? From the right angle. And opposite the right angle is always the hypotenuse. Okay? Now, adjacent, we don't know which one's adjacent at the moment. That will be the last one. So, Anika, I need to work out which one's opposite. Where do I start?
The angle.
The angle that they gave us. What happens, for example, if they want to work out n, and they gave us the angle here, so that's, say, 60 or something. Which angle would you use now? You still use n. Because the angle they want you to work out, the one that you're dealing with in the question, is the n. So if they give you 2, you have to choose one. But in this case, we don't need to choose one because we don't know what that one is. Because if we gave you 2 in this one, we can just work it out by doing 180 minus 90 and stuff. I'm just saying, if they gave you 2 ones that you didn't need to work out, for example, that was p. So you have to make your mind up and work out n first, so that is going to be my opposite side. Okay, rather than an angle in that sense. So, opposite the angle is the opposite. And that leaves us with the remaining side of the bottom has to be the adjacent. Okay, so we label the diagram and let's write down our SOH CAH TOA. This takes a few seconds in the exam, and it's all the difference between a correct answer and 3-4 marks in the bag or the wrong answer. Okay, let's quickly write down, Anika, can you tell me what do we know? So, we know what?
The opposite.
We know the opposite side. Okay, Sundus, what else do we know?
Hypotenuse.
We also know the hypotenuse. Okay, now what do we need? Need to know. Not what we don't know. What do we need to know? Okay, Samia, we need to know what? In the question we need to know the...
Opposite.
No, we need to know the angle. Okay, so Sundus, what do we tick? Wherever we know the opposite hypotenuse, and what do we cross?
Theta.
Okay, so let's go for it. Let's change color. Let's get it red. So what do we know? We don't know the angle. So where we see an angle, you cross. So we want to work one of those out. We do know the opposite. And we do know the hypotenuse. Okay. So when we do this technique, which one do we select?
Sine.
The sine. Why? Because we've got 2 ticks and a cross. We know 2 things, we only don't know 1 thing. Now, we want to work out the sine, so what do? We cover the sine up. So we cover the sine up with our thumb, and that tells us it's going to be opposite divided by hypotenuse. So let's write that down. Now you have to remember this. Now, Anika, do we want to work out the sine of the angle, or we want to work out just the angle? Which one?
Just the angle.
Just the angle. So if you want to work out just the angle, these two at the moment are together. We need to move the sine over. Okay, the sin. In this case, it's written down. Okay, so the sin goes on from the left hand side to the right hand side. And what's the opposite of sin?
Sine minus 1.
Sine minus 1, which is called inverse sine. Okay, so the opposite of sine is going to be inverse sine. So we don't have a new name for the opposite, the inverse of sine, apart from calling it the inverse of sine. So that will give us what? So when we work an angle, we have to not only use our thumb to work out what it is, we have to do some rearranging as well. Okay, now we're ready to put the values in. So I'm just going to carry this on over here. So if you write down here, okay. Even though it's written as sin, we pronounce it sine. Cos is cosine, and tan stands for tangent. As people think, why am I saying sine and say sin? It's just a shorthand. Opposite and hypotenuse, what's opposite? 19, hypotenuse is? So when you put that into your calculator, so when you press shift sin, you'll get the minus 1 will come up and a bracket. Use the fraction button to enter 19 over 25, close the fraction button, and we should get an answer. Okay, 49.46. Now we're measuring an angle, should we give it to 1 dp? So we get 49.5. Okay. Okay, that's us using the SOH CAH TOA in both formats, looking at a side in question 1 and in this example number 2, working at an angle. Okay, we're going to stop the video here. We're going to do some questions. Okay, what we're going to try to do now, I'm going to enlarge this. You bear with me, I'm going to enlarge this. Let's see if we can get a nice big copy to display for the camera, and then everybody can start doing some questions. Okay, right. See, let's see if you can see these on our camera. Okay, so get up there. Not really. Alright, let's just see if we can get this to focus. You should come on this side for me, you know.
I'm on the floor. Can't see anything.
Can't see anything.
Carry on. Stop.
Okay, this is the question that we're going to be doing. Okay, right. Right. Okay, ladies, I want you to do the following question. I'll write them on the board for you. So, question 1. Okay, let's work out C. This is page 58 from the CGP book. Okay, let's do question 1C. Working at angle. Question 3. Working at a side. Okay, here we're working out another side. Okay, and another angle. So them are the questions I want you to try now, please. Okay, we're going to stop the video here and we'll come back and go through some of these questions on the board. Okay.